My take, top of the hour. Remember it? I spoke about President Trump playing hardball with China. Well, he is playing hardball with China, and they have retaliated. Two items. They've arrested Jimmy Lai, who's a Hong Kong democracy proponent and a leading figure there, and they've sanctioned American senators, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and others. Christian Whiton with us now, former State Department official. Christian, for the first time ever, an American president is pushing back real hard on China. I like it. Do you?
Certainly, yeah. It's a big contrast to the previous administration, too. And it's things like this, like focusing on Hong Kong and China's violation of its promises there. It's talking about delisting Chinese stocks, which pose a systemic risk to U.S. equity markets because they don't play by the same rules that U.S. companies do. It's putting more military force potentially in the Pacific, reorienting our military in a way the Obama-Biden administration said they were going to do and then didn't do, and just very tough steps against the Chinese.
I get the feeling that Beijing thought that they got this president on the run. He's down in the polls. They thought they could wait him out until after the election. Then he would go away and they'll deal with Biden. I think they got a shock when President Trump responded very strongly with TikTok, with Huawei, and with other moves that he's been making. I think China is surprised at our president's strength. What do you say?
I think so. Originally, the Chinese really thought they got lucky. They got the Mar-a-Lago visit very early in the presidency. They thought they could go around the National Security Council, get to the president directly, and that he was going to be very similar to other presidents who talked tough, but then basically gave them everything they wanted. And that is just fundamentally not true. The trade relationship has changed dramatically, and it's going to continue to change. You know, we used to talk about where we're going to de-link or not. I think that's sort of happening on its own thanks to Chinese malfeasance. And just a completely different ballgame, a complete reversal of the trend that existed from when China got into the World Trade Organization in 2000, thanks in large part to Joe Biden, where it got away with really 2 decades of just whatever it wanted, to today where they are being pushed hard on trade and security issues. And it's not just the United States. We've put together a coalition of the willing. No one wants to call it that, but even European countries coming around the United Kingdom basically finally agreeing with the United States and saying they were going to remove Huawei from its sensitive telecom systems.
National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien says China's using cyber attacks against our election infrastructure. You know anything more about this?
Well, no, but I think I mean, there have been some background discussions about it. And yes, I mean, the Chinese are extremely aggressive in the digital realm. You know, I've always gotten sort of a chuckle about the very minimal effort or impact the Russians actually had on the 2016 election. There was foreign interference in an election before that. It was the 1996 election when the Chinese went out of their way to help Bill Clinton and funneled significant funds to him. So, you know, the Russians get the headlines. The Chinese have been at this for a while themselves. And they have much more digital savvy than the Russians, frankly. So we ought to be concerned about it. But thankfully, it's something that at least some of our senior officials are looking at.
Well, let's have some judgment here. President Trump is clearly playing hardball with China. Is he winning?
I think so. It takes time. You remember, I mean, if you look at the 1984 election, people would say, well, this Ronald Reagan guy he's been so tough on the Soviets, and what has it gotten us? It's gotten us a lot of acrimony. Our allies are upset with us. We've angered the world. We spent all this money on the military, and it hasn't yielded anything. And 2 years later, it took seeing Ronald Reagan get reelected for the Soviets to realize they finally had to deal with this man. We got a very significant arms control agreement in the INF Treaty in 1986. And then a few years after that, the Soviet Union itself collapsed, preceded by the Eastern Bloc. So we are calling, I think, Xi Jinping's bluff. His answer is to be hardline on everything. And I think the Chinese Communist Party, the people who keep him in power, are seeing there's a consequence to that. Xi Jinping's hardline on Taiwan has actually advanced democracy and sort of de facto independence there. His hardline on Hong Kong, he hasn't extinguished the Hong Kong dissent movement. He can change the rules of the game, but he can't end the game there. And I think eventually this hardline will pay dividends. We're starting to see that, I think, at least because we're taking good defensive steps, but there's more to come.
Okay. Thanks very much, Christian. We'll see you again soon. Thank you, sir.